Hey everybody, my name's Chris from chrissamericos.com, where we help you level up and show the world the best version of yourself. And in today's video, we're going to learn baby talk in English. What is baby talk? Well, linguists call this infant-directed speech. This is how parents speak to their children when they're very, very young. There are special words and phrases that people use when they're speaking to small children. And usually we call this baby talk. Using these words and phrases and intonation can also sound like you're speaking to a child, even if you're speaking to an adult. So you have to be very careful about when you use it. Because I'm not a small child, and if you use this when you're speaking with me, then it will feel very disrespectful, because it will sound like you're talking to me as if I were a child. But I'm not! I'm just a child at heart. So in this video, I'm going to give you the vocabulary words that people use when they speak with small children, but I'm also going to try to tell you a little bit about how linguists think about this phenomenon. But first, press subscribe and then press the bell button so you get notified when new videos come out and so you can join us for live speaking practice. Now, is it good to talk to a baby using baby talk? There are different opinions about this. Some people say that you shouldn't use baby talk with children at all. They say that it hurts them developing regular vocabulary, because adults don't speak like that, and we want them to learn how to speak normally, not just speak like a baby. However, other people say that baby talk actually helps children develop their vocabulary and it gets them speaking. And if you speak English as a second language or a foreign language, or maybe you're still learning English and you want to teach your children English too, then you might start by speaking English to them at home. And this can be very difficult because when you learn the language as an adult, you don't usually learn baby talk. It's just something that you don't usually learn in English books or English courses. But no matter what your reason is for watching this video and learning baby talk in English, there are three main categories of words and phrases that can help us understand why baby talk works the way it works in English. The first category is something that linguists call reduplication. And this basically means that we say the same word twice.
Bye-bye.
A great example of this is bye-bye. Why do we say it twice? Why don't we just say bye like normal people say in English, right? Well, this helps to reinforce learning vocabulary in young children, and we see it a lot in baby talk. The word bye-bye isn't only reserved for small children. I mean, you've probably heard adults say bye-bye also. But intonation is also very important here. At the end of a video, I'll probably say bye-bye. But if I'm speaking to a small child, I'll probably say bye-bye. It sounds more like a song when we speak to a small child. But bye-bye is not the best example. It's just the one that everybody knows. Another good example of this is no-no. First of all, if somebody's doing something that you don't like or they shouldn't be doing, you can say, no, don't do that. But what do you call this thing that you shouldn't do? That's it. You just say it's the thing that you shouldn't do, right? Well, for children who are just learning to speak, it can be difficult to separate verbs from nouns. So if they're doing something that they shouldn't do and you say no, no, then they might understand that they shouldn't do it or that you don't want them to do it. But when they describe this thing that they shouldn't do, they might call it a no-no. And parents might say that too. Parents might say, don't draw on the walls. That's a no-no. It's something that you shouldn't do, or I don't want you to do. Another example of reduplication is the children's way of saying dinner. Instead of dinner, you can say din-din. And a parent might say, come to the table, it's time for din-din. Din-din. Instead of saying dinner with two different syllables in the word that have different sounds. Instead, they just have one syllable with the same sounds repeated twice. We can hear a few more examples of this when we talk about going to the bathroom or the toilet. If they go number one in the toilet, then we might say that they go pee-pee. And we might ask a child, do you need to pee-pee? So we might use it as a verb, and we might also use it as a noun. And here it can be confusing, not only for children, but for people who are trying to learn English and learn baby talk in English. Because to pee-pee could be the verb, the action, to urinate. Or we could also say to pee, but this doesn't sound so nice. Or we could say to piss, which is more of a bad word. So those are verbs, but the word pee-pee could also be a noun, a thing, and it could have two different meanings. After you're done with the action, you might look down at the toilet and say, my pee-pee is in the toilet. And the parent might tell the child, you need to flush your pee-pee. Or they might say, oh, did you get pee-pee on your leg? So pee-pee can mean this thing that came out of our body, but it can also mean something different. It can also be a part of our body. The part of our body where this liquid comes out. Boys and girls have different ones, but both boys and girls can call it their pee-pee. So a pee-pee as a countable noun is a part of the body, but pee-pee as an uncountable noun is a liquid that comes out of your body. And then it can also be a verb, to pee-pee or to go pee-pee. Some people might also say wee-wee, and this would be the same as the verb to pee-pee. We could say to go wee-wee, and we could also say there's wee-wee in the toilet. But the next one, which is not the same, is poo-poo, and this is to go number 2 in the toilet. Similar to pee-pee, the word poo-poo can be both a verb and a noun, but it can only be an uncountable noun. It can never be a part of our body. So a child might go poo-poo, and a parent might ask, do you need to poo-poo? And then after the child is done, they might look in the toilet and say, my poo-poo is in the toilet. As an adult, we don't usually say poo-poo, but you can say to poop.
Everyone poops, beauty.
And this is not the nicest way to say it. Like the verb to pee isn't the nicest way to say it. It's a regular, normal way that a lot of people say it. And as a noun, you might call it poop, you might call it feces, you might call it crap. That one isn't very nice. And a lot of English students think that they can just use the word shit. But that's a rude word, that's a bad word, and it's better not to use that. So to keep things very simple, the regular words are pee and poop, but children say pee-pee and poo-poo. Another example of reduplication in baby talk is when the child is going to sleep. We might say, it's time to go night-night.
Wanna go night-night?
Or some people might say, it's time to go beddy-bye. And the phrase night-night can double as a verb or as a farewell. When the child is laying in bed and you're turning off the light and you can say night-night, like good night. So a child might tell their parents, I don't want to go night-night. And they mean they don't want to go to their bed to go to sleep for the night. In many situations, there's more than one way to say something, even when we're using baby talk. And reduplication, or just saying the same sound twice, is only one way that we form baby talk. Another way that we form baby talk is by using diminutives, or smaller versions of regular words. And I don't mean smaller by the number of letters in the word. I mean that it sounds like it's a smaller thing. It's a nice little something. You probably have something like this in your language too. In fact, they say that in languages like Spanish, Russian, and Lithuanian, up to 40% of words can be changed to have diminutives. That's crazy when we think about English, which is relatively limited with diminutives. And it's very easy to make diminutives in English because all you have to do is add the E sound at the end of a word. So let me show you what I mean. We can do this with people's names. For example, my name is Chris, but if you said Krissy, then I would think that you're speaking to me like a child and you're saying it's a nice little Chris. I would absolutely hate that. So never call me Krissy. Never. But if I have a friend named Mike, his mother might call him Mikey, and that means small little Mike. In general, when we have the sound E at the end of a word, then it makes it sound like it's a smaller version. It's the diminutive of another word. And we use that a lot in baby talk. For example, when we like how something tastes, we might say, that's yummy. Or we might use a reduplication. We might say, yum yum. So the phrase yum yum just means that I like this food, it tastes good, but it's not an adjective, it's just an exclamation. And remember, very often young children can't differentiate a noun from a verb, and so they might say yum yum about a type of food that they like. Mama, I want some more yum yum. And this means I want some more food. But the word yummy is an adjective about something. So we can say, this is yummy food. If the food doesn't taste good, if we don't like it, then we'll say yucky, or this is yucky food. And it's not only about food. If a child is walking outside and picks something up and gets dirt all over their hands, a parent might say, oh, don't touch that. It's yucky. So in general, people use the word yucky to mean something that's undesirable, isn't tasty, or is just gross. And when you're eating something, you can say yum, or you can say yum yum, or you can say yuck. And all of these things are exclamations, just stating your opinion and how you feel about the food or the thing that you're in contact with. Another example where we have both diminutive and reduplication is when we get physically hurt. If a child falls down and their arm is bleeding, for example, they might say, ouch! This is an exclamation. And adults can say this too, ouch, or just ow. But a child might say, this is ouchie, or this is owie, and they'll add the E at the end, like we do with diminutives. Now again, children might use this both as a noun and as an adjective. They might say, I have an ouchie on my arm, I have an owie on my leg. But they might also say, this plant is ouchie. For example, if they're looking at a cactus and they touch it and they say, ouch. So usually we think of the word ouchie as a noun, a thing. It's a wound on the body or a cut. But we can also use it to describe a thing that hurts us. If the child goes to the doctor and the doctor is pressing different places on the child's arm, and in one of the places it's painful for the child might say, that's owie, or that's ouchie, and they mean that's painful or it hurts. Another word they might use is boo-boo. So a child might say, I have a boo-boo on my leg, or I have a boo-boo on my arm. And again, that's a cut or a wound of some kind on your body. There are a lot of examples of using diminutives in English with baby talk. One of the most common uses is with animals like doggy, kitty, horsey, piggy, ducky, froggy, bunny, birdie. So it sounds cute and fun when a child says, look at that horsey. It sounds strange when an adult says, hey, look at that horsey, unless that adult is speaking to a child. Another very common example of this is mommy and daddy, instead of mother and father or mom and dad. So a very small child will usually say mommy and daddy, and then as they get a little older, they'll say mom and dad, and then as an adult, they might talk about their mother and father and call them mother and father. But the words mother and father sound a lot more formal. Now, earlier in this video, we talked about some words that are connected to the toilet and what we do with the toilet. But children don't call it a toilet. They call it a potty, like it's a small pot. And potty can describe the toilet itself, the seat where you sit, this whole mechanism, or potty can also be part of a verb, to go potty. And I might ask my daughter, do you need to go potty? And when I ask this, I don't have to specify, do you need to go pee-pee or do you need to go poo-poo? But again, it will sound very strange if an adult is talking to another adult and says, I need to go potty. It will sound like they're a child. Another example of this is the part of the body where our food goes after we eat it, when we're digesting it. It goes to our stomach, but children don't usually call it a stomach, they call it a tummy. Or they might even use the word tum-tum. So again, here we see examples of both reduplication and diminutives. Another term they might use is belly, but this isn't limited to baby talk. You can see that in English we use the E ending a lot with children's words, like a blanket. When a child goes to sleep, when they go night-night, they need a blanket. But they don't call it a blanket, they call it a blankie. So they might say, Mama, I want my blankie. And before they get into bed, they need to put on some special clothes that they will sleep in. These are pajamas in American English, or pajamas. Some people pronounce it pajamas, some people pronounce it pajamas, but children call them jammies. Put on your jammies, get ready for night-night, or get ready for bed. Or we might say, it's time to go night-night, get your jammies on. And how do we know that it's time to go to bed? Well, the child probably looks very tired. And we can say, you look sleepy. I think you're sleepy. Maybe as an adult learning English, you learned that tired and sleepy mean something different. But when we speak to children, those differences are not so important. And sleepy can describe any time that the child is tired. And because it uses the diminutive ending E, it's more likely to be used in baby talk. Just like the word teddy. We could just call this stuffed animal a bear, but children tend to call it a teddy bear. Or just teddy, using the E ending. Some children have a special thing that they suck on, and this helps them when their teeth are coming in, when they are teething, or it might just help to calm them down sometimes. And people in different countries call this different things. In American English, a lot of people call it a binky, but in Australian English or British English, some people might call it a dummy. So a child might say, "Mama, where's my binky?" Another funny example of using the diminutive ending E is when somebody makes a mistake. We can say, uh-oh, or we can say, oops. And these are things that adults might say too. But with a child, we might also say, oopsie, or we might say, oopsie daisy. The phrase oopsie daisy doesn't really mean something different from just oopsie or oops. But children tend to like rhyming words and combinations that don't really make sense. They think it sounds funny because, well, it does sound funny. Another funny combination like this is teeny-weeny. Instead of just saying that something is tiny or teeny tiny, they might say teeny-weeny. And this means very small or tiny. Another example is easy-peasy instead of just the word easy. They might hear an adult speak to them and use the term easy-peasy. Oh, you can do this. It's easy-peasy. And then the child might pick up on this and think that it sounds funny or interesting and then repeat it. So we've talked about reduplication. We've talked about diminutives. But the third thing that we need to talk about is iconicity. That's what linguists call it. But in English literature, we usually call it onomatopoeia. And basically what both of these things mean is that we use sounds as words. And linguists call it iconicity because you're basically taking the sound that something makes and then using this term to talk about both the sound and the object that makes the sound. So a great example of this is choo-choo.
Here comes a choo-choo train.
Choo-choo is the sound that a train makes in English. And a child might say choo-choo when they're playing with a train, but they might also call the train a choo-choo. They might say, "Give me my choo-choo." And this is because they connect the sound with the object that creates the sound, and they don't really see the difference between those two things when they're very young. So when they see a dog, they might say, "Look, it's a woof-woof." Because in English, the sound a dog makes is woof, woof. Or some people might say ruff, ruff. And then for other dogs, we might say bow, wow. Why do we have so many different dog sounds in English? Good question. Write a comment down below and let me know what dogs say in your language. If we talk about a sheep, it usually says baa, baa in English. And so a child might associate baa-baa with the sound that a sheep makes, but also with the sheep itself. Another really good example of this is the clock. And the clock goes tick-tock, tick-tock. So it's very possible that a child might call a clock a tick-tock because that's the sound it makes. Or it can talk about an explosion that an adult might describe as boom. So a child who's learning how to speak might fall down and say, "Mama, boom, boom." And this means I fell down, or it means I got hurt. It means that there was contact with something. Usually it's about a loud sound or hitting something. Probably my favorite example of this is the word moo-moo. which is the sound that a cow makes. So a child might say moo-moo like the sound that a cow makes, or they might use the word moo-moo about a cow. But they might also use the word moo-moo about milk. For example, when my daughter drinks her milk in the evening, she says, "Papa, I want moo-moo," because the carton of milk has a picture of a cow on it, and cows say moo-moo. Okay, I've got one more example to share with you in this video, but make sure you've subscribed to this channel right now so you don't miss anything in the future. The last example is really funny because it describes baby talk using baby talk. We say goo-goo or goo-goo gaga.
Goo-goo gaga.
And this is baby talk to talk about how babies talk. So if a child is a little older and has started to speak, but they see a baby somewhere and the baby is making some sounds, a parent might ask, "What did the baby say?" And the child can say, "Goo-goo." So if a child is a little older and has started to speak already, then they might play with a baby doll, or they might see a baby. They might say goo-goo or goo-goo gaga. And this represents how a baby is speaking. Because the baby isn't saying words like adults, the baby is using baby talk. And to talk about baby talk, a child might say goo goo gaga. Today in this video, you learned a lot of infant-directed speech, and now you can go out there and use it with children. But remember, only use it with children. It will sound so strange if you use it with adults. And since you're an adult, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to this channel, and leave a comment down below letting me know that this was useful and that you want more videos like this. I will see you in the next one. Bye bye!